Hey fam. If you're watching this video, you're probably interested in building immunity community with me. I decided to make this easy access content for everybody who knows someone or loves someone who's dealing with a chronic degenerative illness or is just interested in more health and longevity. Basically, your immunity depends on your community, which means if you're going through something like that, you were never meant to do it alone. And your besties and your family and your people are here for you. And this content is all about helping them help you, and you help them. So let's dive into the big forefront easy question regarding food, right? Food is our most frequently used medicine, and it's something that we all have access to. And there's tons of research on it, and it's just basically come down to a pretty fair consensus of what we can and can't do with food and how to use food as our medicine. Let thy food be thy medicine. So I wanted to start with an interesting question. Can we starve cancer? Can we starve cancer? I mean, has anybody heard about that? Kind of. Like, here's where that question arose from. If you have ever had testing or imaging for finding out if your body has cancer, maybe you've undergone a PET scan or radiological imaging that uses a dye as a tracer, and you either eat that dye or you are injected with that dye, and then some time passes and then you go into magnetic resonance or some other machine that tracks the dye and looks at which cells took up the dye. So this concept of can we starve cancer, and a greater concept that you probably heard of, this buzzword called a ketogenic diet, came from the understanding that that dye is glucose, because cancer cells thrive on glucose or dietary sugars. And if we, since they're very greedy for glucose because they're rapidly dividing cells and they want to grow, maybe if we just didn't give them any glucose, they would starve. Right? Seems like a fair enough hypothesis. And some part of that is true. But I'll give you my take on it as a practitioner that's been helping people with chronic illness and improving longevity for, oh my gosh, a long time, coming up on a quarter of a century. The ketogenic diet aims for ingesting very little glucose and asks your body to essentially only take in small amounts of protein and mostly dietary fat and fiber and nutrients, and therefore convert that fat into glucose as needed. Notice we have to do some conversion because there's other tissue that only runs on glucose, and that's your brain. So fun fact, keto is difficult to sustain and transition into because your brain is used to having its regular amount of glucose. So starving cancer using the ketogenic method is tough. It's tough. It's kind of extreme. And since you're going to kick cancer and live a long and healthy life, we want you to do things that are sustainable for the rest of your life. So that means instead of swinging to the extreme of like no glucose ever, or starve, we're actually going to focus on controlling blood sugar, preventing glucose spikes, and using food as a medicine to heal cancer and empower your body. That being said, some of the meals you eat may be totally ketogenic, and definitely cutting out refined sugar from your diet, or at least limiting it way down, is absolutely helpful on all fronts. I don't think there's really any debate about that lowering or eliminating all refined sugars from your diet is such a great goal to have most of the time, okay? I'm not talking about like living in a way that's so depressing you don't have birthday cake or Thanksgiving pie, okay? But looking at blood sugar spikes is really, really important and serves double duty because your immune system is going to be most active and thriving when your stress is low. And your stress and your immune system go hand in hand. And when your stress is really high, which is indicative of poor blood sugar control or blood sugar spikes, peaks and valleys, then your immune system is not going to be working well at all. It's actually going to be put on the back burner. It's going to be put on hold. It's going to be like sent out to lunch, basically. So what we want to do is have a diet that is super rich in antioxidants and phytochemicals and all these wonderful, colorful, plant-based medicinal ingredients. We want to have a diet that supports our gut and our microbiome with lots of healthy fiber because your microbiome is 80% of your immune response and immune protection. And we want that same kind of diet also prevents large spikes or dips in glucose. So what does that look like? It looks like, ding, 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 eating more plants. Okay, you're gonna hear me say eat more plants a million bajillion times. It is like hashtag life goals. Like it's it. Eat the plants. End of story. If you want to look into the research, there are decades of research across multiple countries that people who eat more plants live longer, happier, healthier, stronger, less disease, less obesity, less of all the bad stuff, more of all the good stuff. So essentially, my whole journey in the kitchen is how do I get more plants in my body and how do I make them really tasty? And we're going to continue to share recipes and tips and tricks on how to do that. If we are using that, guys, for specifically reducing cancer and bringing the body back into balance, then there are some specific plants. There's some big ones. And those plants have qualities called anti-angiogenesis. So you may have heard me talk about this before. Cancer is groups of rapidly dividing cells. And what we don't want is those cells to get more of what they need and to grow larger and larger and metastasize. And the way that they do that is by getting blood circulation to them, just like how anything else in your body grows. Because spoiler alert, cancer is still your body. It's still your cells. Your body made it. Okay, so it's difficult to treat it as some bad, icky foreign invader because you do that at the expense of your own body. But when we remember that, cancer cells or a tumor came from you and are you, we are onerous of that and are sort of reinforcing our ability to bring our body back in check, knowing that our body will get rid of the cancer just as easily and more willingly than it wanted to make it. So angiogenesis is the process of cells getting circulation, growing new blood vessels so that they can continue to grow. And as you can imagine, it's really important for growth and development. It's like happening all over the place for little kids. As we get older, we don't need to grow new tissues. We don't do it as much. But there are foods, plants, yes, plants, that have angiogenesis sort of encouragers or decreasers, for lack of a more scientific word. So there are specific plants that are really rich in antioxidants that are known throughout different cultures around the world to be generally really freaking healthy. And one of the things that they do is they decrease the signaling for cancer cells to ask for and get more blood vessels. And it prevents cancer from growing. And in a way, because it's not getting blood, it is starving cancer. And it's my great preference to starve cancer this way, as opposed to just trying to live a life where you're not going to eat any glucose because you're going to be fighting your brain the entire time. Your brain is going to go, excuse me, we need glucose here and we're more important. So you're going to need your brain and all your brain power to, meet these challenges and have inspiration and make these changes. So let's do it the way that is brain friendly. Okay. So anti-angiogenesis foods can be Googled very easily, and they include, high antioxidant plants, okay? Other things that are really important is not necessarily just what you eat, but how you eat to prevent glucose spikes. So I'll end this video with, a short list of things that you can do right now to help prevent glucose spikes, okay? These are really easy. Number one, if you are going to have foods that will trigger a glucose spike. These are starchy foods, carbohydrates, even really lean protein by itself. Every time you eat, your glucose is going to go up. So what we want to do is prevent it from spiking and then crashing out. So how can you do that? You can always add a little bit of healthy fat to the meal. Healthy fat blunts the glucose. This is why really delicious meals have a combination of protein, starch, and fat. One great example that comes to mind is, say you really want all the nutrients from juicing and blending, and you want to have some green apples, some carrots, some beets, some celery, some cucumber, pineapple, you name it, right? You're mixing all those things in. There's quite a bit of fructose in those foods. If you just do a teaspoon to a tablespoon of olive oil in your juice, it's going to be extra satisfying and it's going to blunt the blood sugar spike. And good quality olive oil is another very rich source of antioxidants. So that's what you can do right now. Just a little drizzle of olive oil in your blender, so that when you're drinking your smoothies and your juices, you're blunting that blood sugar spike. Another thing you can add is citrus. Citrus and any of these natural organic acids like apple cider vinegar or fresh lemon or fresh lime, it enhances the flavor of what you're eating and also helps manage the blood sugar. So when I eat my giant bowl of papaya, which I love as a snack, I will put on lime juice. Papaya just doesn't even taste as good without lime juice. Okay, so lime juice mandatory, right? So if you're eating fruit, you can add lime juice. And then I'll do hemp seeds on top of it, which are a source of healthy protein and fat. And what that's doing is making the fruit really satisfying, a lot more gourmet and interesting, and it's going to blunt the blood sugar spike and make it, more of a meal. So add healthy fat. Add a form of citrus. You can also add cinnamon if that floats your boat. Cinnamon is also great for blood sugar control. Lots of extra black pepper, which is excellent for helping with blood sugar control and enhancing the flavor. If you are going to have, starchy or carbohydrate heavy foods, eat them earlier in the day, sort of midday is really helpful. So your smoothies, your juices, your, potatoes and pasta and things like that, they're going to digest well and not have as much of a spike if you eat them earlier in the day. There's an old adage about making sure that your dinner is eaten at least 3 hours before you go to bed, because as the sun starts to go down and your biology shifts into rest mode, it is going to have less of the ability to take up nutrients and sugar into the cells. So your insulin is not going to respond as well at midday. It's going to respond a lot better at midday than it is at your midnight snack or when you're eating close to bedtime. So as you continue to kind of shift your meal schedule, another thing you can do is make sure that you're eating your last meal at least 3 hours before bedtime, which if your bedtime's anywhere between 9 and 11, you're eating 5 to 7, you're doing really well. If you do need a snack because you are ravenous or because your blood sugar feels really low, that snack should be really light and it should have some protein in it, like maybe like a handful of almonds or something like that. Celery, a couple dips of hummus, something like that, that isn't going to send your blood sugar soaring. And if you're going to have a sweet treat, have that earlier in the day also, so that it doesn't make your blood sugar soar and then also crash. So when you eat is particularly important for helping manage blood sugar. And then what you eat, making sure that you have healthy fat in there, even if it's just a drizzle of excellent olive oil, some citrus, some extra spices, particularly black pepper, cinnamon, something like that. Those will all help manage blood sugar spikes. So pairing your foods instead of just one thing at a time. And then eating your last meal a little bit earlier in the day, aim for 3 hours before dinner. And then finally, we want to prevent blood sugar crashes, because The diet industry and everything else is going to talk about, it's going to focus on blood sugar going high. And that's not great, right? But when we're talking about the stress response and how stress is the big hammer on your immune system, stress is the big deciding factor of whether your body is up for healing or just in emergency survival mode. So we're going to have tons more content about stress. We are biologically wired to have a stress response to low blood sugar. Low blood sugar, yeah, low, okay? So the other really important thing is to make sure that if you want to starve cancer, you're not starving yourself, okay? If you do not eat frequently enough or regularly enough, then you are probably spiking your stress hormones and getting in your body's way of healing and repair. It should make sense, right? You need nutrients to heal, but also if your brain is starving and not getting its normal amount of glucose from healthy whole foods, you're going to have stress hormones. You're gonna just be kicking out cortisol, allowing your body to try to get stuff done without food. And that is chronically very dangerous. It's particularly important for women. We don't fast well. We don't. And when our body doesn't get food, especially early in the morning, it starts eating away at our muscle. It just goes into a survival response mode and it really throws us off for the rest of the day. Have you ever had the experience where you were mildly hungry and thinking about maybe some healthy food choices? That didn't happen. Then you got really starving. You just opened the fridge and you started shoving anything in your face that you can see. Yeah, that's because the food didn't come and the stress hormones rose and your body went, F this, we just need food right now. So don't let that happen, okay? Eat within 30 minutes of waking up. Start with a big glass of water and then get some protein in. If you're a coffee drinker, you will promise me to load protein before your coffee, okay? So if that's an egg, if that's nut butter on toast, if that's a little protein shake, if that's a handful of nuts, whatever it is, you're going to get protein in your body before that coffee so that, again, your blood sugar is less likely to spike and therefore crash, okay? So eating within 30 minutes of waking up is super duper essential. Find something easy, accessible, and healthy. For new moms, I say like grab a protein shake that's already made out of the fridge, something quick and easy. Otherwise, just have your breakfast on autopilot. Maybe it's your bowl of oatmeal or something like that that you don't even really have to think about. Just get it in there within 30 minutes of waking up. You wake up, you have your big glass of water, start to flush everything, open up your digestive system, and then get your food. And then once you have your food, have your coffee, and then go have a wonderful day. And we'll talk a lot more about healing recipes and cancer-fighting foods and supporting your immunity and decreasing your stress with nutrition and longevity and all that fun stuff next time I see you. In the meantime, Google anti-angiogenesis foods and start adding more of those to your diet. Okay, love you guys. Bye.